Hello, in this video we are going to work on making frequency tables. The only reason we really want to make a frequency table is so that we can then use it to make a histogram. So evidence-wise, we're going to sort a series of numbers. We're going to do this in a slightly different way than we have before, but the same idea basically. We're then going to create a frequency table, and as I mentioned, we're going to use our frequency table to create a histogram. Our learning experience, we've got 2 examples and 2 you-dos as we have been doing recently. There's also things to remember and suggested practice problems. At this point you might be able to guess what the suggested practice problem is, but this time with the context of this video. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So let's do our first example. We're going to make a frequency table. Before we get too far into it, make sure you copy down this thing over here. This is going to be your frequency table. Anyway, we have 25 students in a class who take an assessment. Their data is listed to the left, right here. We are going to make a frequency table to show this data.
Just look at this pattern.
Hey, that looks like Bart.
And turning to the 3D map, we see an unmistakable cone of ignorance.
So the first thing we need to do is we need to kind of look at our data, and we got to figure out how do we want to split up our categories. The best way to do this is by 5s, by 10s, by 15s, maybe by 2s, by 4s. It's whatever you really need it to be. If you've got really small numbers, you might break them up by halves. For this problem, we're going to mostly go by 10s. So for example, I see that we have hundreds. Those are the highest we can go. So let's make this first category, say 91 to, say 90 to 100. So any grade that is between 90 and 100, we're going to mark here. We're going to do the same thing for 89 to 80. Really, I should have written those the other direction, that's fine. Then we'll do 70 to 79. 60 to 69, 50 to 59, and then I did see one data point that's in the 40s, so we'll do 40 to 49. This can be a little bit tricky to set up. You really have to look at your data, figure out what is the best category, what is the best spacing to use for categories. Again, I would pick an easy number. If you got lots of bigger numbers, go with something like 5s or 10s. If you've got a bunch of numbers that are close together, you could maybe get away by going by 1s or 2s. If you've got decimals or fractions and a bunch of very small numbers, then you could go up by halves or smaller. It just depends on the context of your problem. Next thing that we're going to do is we are going to make tally marks for each time a number appears in that category. So we'll start with the 90 through hundreds. Here I see one of them. There's another one. We got the third one there. 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you're going to go through the rest of the chart and continue doing this. I'm going to speed this part up because I don't think you want to watch the entire thing. Alright, now we've tallied all of our values. The last part is just putting the frequency. For the frequency, we're just going to write the number of tallies so it's an actual number instead of just a bunch of tally marks. So our frequency for 10 to 100, from 90 to 100 was 10 values. Our frequency from 80 to 89 was 6 values. There was nobody who got a C, so we can put a 0 there. 2 people got Ds, so we can put a 2. 6 people got Fs, and 1 person got an F, but a much lower F. So that's how we make a frequency table. Pause the video, rewind to watch any parts that were unclear to you, but that's all you got to do. The hardest part is figuring out this section here with the categories. If you can get that down, then you should be good to go. So we have a you-do for today. The ages of 20 customers in a donut shop are listed below.
Whoa, you made the international sign of the donut.
You are going to create a frequency table to model this data. So again, the first thing you want to do is figure out what categories you have. From there, count up how many times those values fit in each category, and find the frequency. Pause the video and begin this problem. So now that we've made our frequency table, let's use that information to make a histogram. So, a histogram is always going to consist of a scale, kind of like a coordinate plane. We're going to have an x and a y axis, sort of. On our x-axis, we're just going to have our various categories. So you could put grade here. And we're going to just list them in order. I think I'm going to do this in reverse order because that makes a little bit more sense. We'll have a section that is 40 to 49. Section that is 50 to 59. 60 to 69. 70 to 79. We do need to put that in there, even though we saw in the previous example there weren't any. 80 to 89. And 90 to 100. So, we have these categories listed here. We do kind of want to keep them the same size. And that is what's going to be on our x-axis. On the y-axis, we're going to look at our frequency, and we're going to do that more like we normally would do a x-axis. So just to make things a little bit simpler, I'm going to go up by 2s. So that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And you should probably label these. 16. Just so that you know what they're supposed to be. We should also over here write that this is going to be the frequency. Which I'm attempting to write sideways and honestly didn't look that bad. Cool. So, the next part is you are going to draw a line where you see that frequency. So for 40 to 49, we had a frequency of 1. 1 would be in between 2 and, we could say this is 0. We're going to draw a line here. We're going to draw it across this entire category. And then we can bring it down, and we can shade it in. And if you're familiar with the bar graph, this does look fairly similar, but it is in fact its own unique thing, in that it's a histogram. So, we do that for the rest of them. 50 to 59, we had a frequency of 6, so we're going to put our line up here. We make a column out of it, and we can color that in. And I'm going to go ahead and speed through the rest of this, because it's the same thing. Alright, and there we have our completed histogram. In an ideal world, you'd want the widths of all these columns to be the same. If you've got graph paper, this is a great place to use it. But given the fact that I'm doing this on Screencastify, and it's a little bit harder. But there you go. So we have our histogram. What's cool about this is we can use this to quickly assess our data. Just by looking at it very quickly, it helps us compare the various measurements. Our frequency table does kind of do that, but this is a nice visual method of doing so. And between frequency tables and histograms, you are much more likely in real life to see a histogram. So pause the video, copy this down if you haven't, Rewind if you need to look again at anything that tells us how to make a histogram. We're going to go on to our second part of our udo. So for your second udo, again, you're going to use the same information from the first udo, but this time you are going to make a histogram for the data you found in your frequency table. As it says there, use your work from the first udo to help you do this. There's no reason that you should make another frequency table out of the same data. Just use that same frequency table. Pause the video, give this one a shot. So things to remember from this video. Remember to organize your data using a frequency table. To make each category, pick easy numbers. Things like multiples of 5 and 10 are always good bets, but make it match whatever you need it to work for. Count how many times a number appears in each category, and then total the tallies up. That's how you make a frequency table. You are then going to use your frequency table to organize a histogram. Use the categories you use to make the x-axis. The y-axis is just a normal scale for your tallies, and then you make some rectangles on it, essentially, that match up with your frequencies. Pause the video, write down anything that you need from this slide, and then we'll go on to the suggested practice problems for today. So your suggested practice problem for today, it's the same thing that has been for the past couple of videos. Mr. H runs 20 minutes for 7 days. The distance he runs each day are listed below, which are all in kilometers. You're going to create a frequency table and a histogram for the dataset. I'll give you a hint on this one just because you're dealing with decimal values here. I would suggest making each category of your frequency table increase by 0.2. So maybe start at like 2, go up to have a category that's like 2 to 2.2, 2.21 to 2.4, or 2.41 to 2.6, etc. That I think might help you with this one. But give it a try. You can use a different range if you want. So yeah, pause the video, and good luck. What do stickers do? Nice.